Hey guys, it's Dan Rickard here. We're going to be looking at a super easy way to do skinning with Biped inside of 3D Studio Max. So what I've got showing here is a mesh, and I'll just move that over, and I've got a Biped on the inside. You can see that it's made up of boxes. I've simply got these selected, and I'm using display as box. Okay, so whatever, I just prefer to use it this way sometimes. So I'll just put this back. Couple things to consider that you should always do right before you get into skinning is making sure to reset your X form. If you've done any type of scaling on your object like such, make sure to reset your X form. Okay, that's going to essentially reset your history, and it's not going to affect any modifiers at that point. So to do that, go over to the Utilities panel, reset X form, and reset selected. A lot of times back in the day, we used to have to do it twice. Funny enough. Usually once wasn't enough, so it's almost a kind of a habit of mine to do it twice. Whatever, that's something that I do, and I know a bunch of other old-timey guys do that as well. But anyhow, reset your X form religiously on this before you get into anything with modifiers, especially a skinning modifier. So collapse that down. I've named my mesh. Not 100% necessary, but it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to go through. So I have my object here. I've got my bones. Okay, let's go ahead and put a skinning modifier on it. So skin. We need to add the bones to this skin modifier. Okay, skin modifier, add bones. Let's click on add. That'll open up the box for us. I hit control and I selected the arrow on the side to open up everything. And really, I want to select everything on this character except for the Biped file. So I'm going to select pelvis and then hold down shift and select this bottom one. Okay, so I've gone through and selected everything. If you've got another type of character that has custom bones, that you might want to make sure those are selected. Or if there's something else in the scene that you don't want as part of your skin modifier, then make sure it's not selected. So I don't want the Biped selected. I simply want the pelvis and the rest. So I hit select. Now all of those bones are added into this area. Okay, you can see if I select some of these bones. Okay, let me turn on Edit Envelope. If I select the bone, it highlights the area on the actual mesh, and it's done so in a colored fashion that allows us to see the type of influence that bone has on the mesh. So in this case, the red is 100% influenced by that bone. The blue is barely influenced by it, and the gray is not influenced at all. So it's within this envelope here. Okay, so it's almost this radius of influence that we can control around these bones. If I select one of these other ones, and you can see that's these gray lines that run down that. So if I select this gray line here, that's selecting the envelopes. So the same as this. This envelope has mostly orange or dark orange around here, and it fades off into yellow to blue. So with hardly any influence on these verts. Okay, so the skinning modifier affects the verts. So every vertex on this mesh will have to be weighted somehow to the bones underneath. So what we're going to do now is, by looking at some of these, so you can see how these envelopes go way over top of another envelope. By the way, you might hear me say envelope and envelope. I don't know why I switch them. Doesn't matter. But anyway, we've got this blending that goes, let's say, halfway down the forearm with this one. And if I select the forearm, it goes halfway up the bicep. So in the middle of those two, we've got a little bit of blending. Now, I should be able to see both of those. If I go to display, I can show all envelopes. Now you're going to see everything on my guy here. Okay. So if I show all envelopes, I can definitely see that there's one going around here and one going this way, and on the inside of that, we're going to have a bit of blend from both of those bones. Okay, you can see here we're going to have a bit of an issue coming from the pelvis, or sorry, from the pelvis, from this lower spine. The lower spine is actually influencing some of the arm, so we've got to get rid of that. Okay, let me get rid of show all envelopes. That's hard to see. So what about the upper spine? So wow, that upper spine is really influencing a lot of the upper arm, some of the forearm, part of the head even. Okay, so what if we wanted to bring that down a little bit? Well, we can move these envelopes. So you can select the little handles, or I guess it's almost like little envelope verts, but you can select those and move them. So I'm just moving down using the arrow tool. I'll do the same on this side. Okay, and already that helps. Now I still have some type of influence on here, but that's stuff that we can adjust later on. Right now I just want to minimize the amount of overlap. So I'm going to do the same with this one. Okay, so with this one, I can start minimizing that as well. Doing this one as well. So now it's essentially just the waist. Arms are okay. I might even want to increase this a little bit, because you can go the other way. Instead of just minimizing, you can also increase it. One thing to consider before I go any farther is you don't have to manually do both sides of the body. Okay, if I'm going to start on the green side, I really only want to do the green side, because later on we can just mirror all of these influences to the right side or to the blue side, and that's done through using the mirror mode. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So right now I'm going to use my just kind of broad strokes. I like to think of skinning as a several step process. This first step being the broad stroke process, where it's kind of like brushing my teeth with a mop. I can get it done really fast, but I'm not very precise with it. I'm going to get my face all full of toothpaste. In this case, I can get a lot of verts weighted really quickly by just moving these envelopes around, but I don't have very much specificity with it. Okay, that's where later on we can get in on a per vert basis, and we can really get that stuff nailed down in terms of how much influence per bone we actually want. We can get right down to a numerical value. So right now I'm just kind of using broad strokes and making sure that things are blending and somewhat smoothed out. Okay, so just enlarging some of these a little bit here. This one's probably a little bit too much, so I can back that off a bit, so it's not on all the fingers. Okay, that one, yeah, somewhere around there. Again, all this is going to be fixed up and tweaked later on. I didn't put all 5 fingers on here. I essentially have a mitt, so I didn't bother putting in all the fingers, just for lack of time on this. Okay, and then I've got my upper finger, so I'll drop that down. Drop it down here. So if I left it like this, if I moved my upper fingers but also moved the thumb, obviously I don't want that, so I'm going to drop that down. Okay. And really, I want this upper finger only to affect a little bit of the lower part of the finger. Okay, and that's stuff that we can adjust later on. We can move this around and adjust it using some of the paint weights tools, and we can blend these out a little bit nicer. Now just increase this slightly, and maybe decrease that a little bit. We already did the spine, clavicle. Want a little bit more movement. Now, one thing that I want to show you is that we can move just the radius of these envelopes, but we can also move the envelope itself. If you select that gray bar, there's 2 points to it, and you can actually move that around. I wouldn't suggest moving that too much, but you know what? Sometimes it doesn't hurt to tweak it slightly. Okay, and almost done. Just have a few more to move around a little bit. And of course, all of this will be adjusted and tweaked based on a range of motion animation. And that's something that I strongly suggest doing. Look how this head really needs to be dropped down. Range of motion animation is going to be something that allows us to do quick testing. So we can get this set up with some really simple poses, and then quite quickly edit our skinning while just dragging across on the timeline. Okay, so the head is for the most part done, the torso, the hands. Let's quickly do the legs. So this leg could come in a little bit. Now, as with everything, there's lots of different ways on how to do skinning. You know what? You need to find the one that fits you. I could show you a dozen different ways on doing things, but until you actually try it, you might not be sure if it's the one that's going to be right for you. Does it fit into your workflow? Does it fit into your way of thinking? You know, that's the beauty of playing around with 3D, is that there's so many different ways on doing stuff. Okay, so just grab this one. Sometimes grab the wrong one. Okay, so that grabs that, and then the toe. Okay, so that should be fairly good. Now, if I compare this side to this side, okay, it's definitely a little bit different. Now, what I want to do right away is use this mirror mode. Okay, so I'm going to click on mirror mode. I'm working with the green side. Notice there is a this orange box. Essentially, this is my mirror. This is my symmetry line. So everything on this side is going to be mirrored from this. Okay, so if you go across here, you can see what these say. Paste green to blue, or paste blue to green. Right now we're using bones only. We haven't gone into the actual verts, so we don't have to worry about painting the verts. So we're going to just use the blue, the paste green to blue bones. So we want the green to be pasted to the blue. So let's do that. Click, done. Turn this off. Now, if we look at these, we can look over here, and it's essentially the same type of envelope and the same type of weighting. So all of the envelope sizes have been changed. Notice that they're no longer a perfect capsule. Okay, same as the legs. So the legs are going to be exactly the same. Okay, so that's one quick way to get you know, just a general start of things. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to save this, because we want to make sure that you don't have to redo things. So I'll say whatever, version 1. I'm actually going to stop this video because I'm at about 12 minutes now. I'm going to make a second part to this, and we're going to skim a little bit further in. See you in a few minutes.